Welcome to a very special edition of Just Candid, Chitkara University's entrepreneurship endeavor and a chat series with inspiring personalities. Today we have with us Professor Viney Sawhney, a stalwart professor and an academician from the University of Harvard. Sir, welcome on board and welcome to Chitkara University.
Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here with us, and while listening to your conversation, how you prepare for your class and how does your classroom look like and how your students are just there listening to you till your last words finish. Sir, share about how you prepare for your class.
So, typically, the class preparation is a very involved process. For a 3-hour class, I spend between 6 to 8 hours. That would include selecting the course materials, going through the case studies, going through some of the questions that I am likely to encounter during the course of my discourse with the students. So it's basically anticipating responses from students that may just come out of the blue. The students are very demanding, they're very intelligent, they're very well informed, they prepare very well for the class. And I sometimes do get very searching questions. So it's imperative for someone like me to do adequate homework to ensure that I excel. So that process of preparation is a 6 to 8 hour affair. Yes. And
that ends up in building a better imagination for students. How do they foresee themselves?
I mean, as I said, it's my classes are very participative, and so I'm in constant dialogue with the students, and I know that during the course of my sessions, which are fairly long, 3 hours, I could be confronted with some very intricate, difficult, embarrassing questions, and I'm ready for all of them. And it's all about research. It's I have to, as I said, prepare obviously better than the students, because I have to also provide my unique input into the conversation, which can be used by them as a takeaway, and that's where the learning takes place. So when for instance I present an article, we discuss the article, and then at the end I would explain to them, this is what my takeaway is, this is how I perceive the situation, and that is the takeaway that they are really waiting for. It's fine to have brainstorming, but at the end of the day, they do want to have a concluding
outcome,
discourse
yeah.
Which is used by them for their learning process.
So storytelling remains on top of your agenda, and that's where the learning for them happens.
Right. Concluding the conversation in the form of a 1-liner or a 2-liner or a 3-liner takeaway is very critical, I think, for accelerated learning. Yes.
Perfect. Sir, at this wonderful age, what is the reason behind your energy? I keep hearing from friends and I keep hearing from your students, and they say that the energy he has, the passion, with which he teaches and delivers. What is the reason behind? What can others take away from? Have a takeaway?
I really enjoy teaching. I mean, this is something that I decided to make a decision very early on. After my checkered banking career for over 25 years, and I said, well, I think I've done enough of money making and business and so on and so forth. So this is payback time, and I thought that was best accomplished through teaching, and I can continue to work till I die. I mean, that's one profession which allows you to go on and on. We never retire. We have no retirement age at Harvard. I could go on teaching, as I said, till my last breath. So the other thing, that the reason I think they are behind, the energy piece, I suppose, is I do want the students to be involved and to keep their attention span. I think I need to demonstrate that I'm as involved as they are, and or better. So that comes from the enthusiasm and the energy that I display in the classroom, where it keeps them on their toes. And they say, oh, the professor is very energetic, we have to be energetic. So it's sort of, I become a role model for them to adapt. So I think the other rationale for my presentation style is, I think I've seen that the grasp and the communication is superior.
Right.
And you know, I also make it a point to, you know, repeat some of the themes that I propound in the classroom, and I use gestures and I use my movements, and that's all to communicate the message better and more emphatically to get the desired result. So as we are talking now, you know, I could talk in a different way, but this is the way I talk, this is the way I converse, is to improve the quality of the communication.
You also,
it's a two-way communication.
It's a two-way communication.
And the message pierces through.
That's what is very important.
Yeah. And that piercing through process, I think, takes place when you teach with a lot of energy and enthusiasm.
No, I think one of the beautiful things you mentioned in your talk was that get away from the blackboard and maintain the eye contact.
Yes.
You know, would you like to share a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I actually, you know, when I was at MIT, I took a course in communications, and that's where I learned that from, is eye contact. And eye contact, I think, is a great mechanism that you know, where you the responsibility to communicate is on the communicator. So that is the takeaway from that course. I remember that. And
that
is best accomplished through eye contact, through gestures, through the quality of the sound that you produce, and the enthusiasm that you display in your dialogue with students.
While you are doing,
I mean, if you sound boring and so on, I suppose you're going to lose your audience.
You lose the thread.
You're going to lose your audience very, very quickly.
Immediately, I think, and
it shows up. It shows up because then students start looking at their phones and they start chatting with each other.
That's a big challenge. The phone is a big hindrance.
The phone is a big challenge. They start chatting with each other. They look at something else and so on and so forth. So
wonderful, sir. It's now been 27 years in US for you, and I could feel that your heart lies in India. You mentioned that 11 unicorns are born out of India, from the Indian continent. And are you looking forward to personally find another unicorn mentor from A to Z?
Not really, no, I'm not.
No.
That's a very challenging process. I think I've had my fun, and but I would certainly like to help in the process. But I'm not looking forward to producing a unicorn myself or becoming a mentor to a unicorn, because I really don't know whether I'll be successful or not.
You could be, sir, because you already mentioned you already bought, sold, raised 3 startups on your own.
No, I know that. I know that. You know, but I also want to enjoy my life. I think I have reached a stage in my life where I owe it to myself and to my family to enjoy whatever I've created so far, and. But I would continue to mentor startups wherever I can, you know, lend a helping hand and make a contribution. I personally feel that venture capital, I think, is an art form, and you know, you do actually need to sit in a classroom to figure this out. It's people are trying to learn venture capital on the fly, you know, by attending some conferences and talking to a few people. But you know, there are certain rules of the game that
Clinical
you need
approach.
to follow through. You know, there's you need to understand how a term sheet is crafted. You know how to read a cap table. You know how to value add.
Investor
you
rating
need to
report,
understand how to devise and craft a go-to-market strategy. You need to understand, you know, funding. You need to understand the behavior of funders. You need to understand the art and craft the art of, you know, personnel selection, building your management team. It's all it's all very helpful if you know what the pitfalls are and roadblocks are ahead of time, and so why not just go through the materials, sit in a classroom, study some,
and be a little patient.
Go through the case studies,
well prepared,
and read.
That's
read
a
the
habit.
material.
Yeah, very important reading.
Yeah, and I've seen, at least in India, I think I find that lacking. People don't read.
Right.
For some reason, the reading habit, I think, is absent here. It's probably not encouraged or whatever it is. But that's something that people should really work on.
We should
so
work
that's,
upon.
that's my sort of takeaway on.
Perfect. So coming on to my last two questions. The next one is, what is your take on Indian startup ecosystem especially from the last 5 to 10 years? What's happening here? And since you are in US, and that's a very mature startup ecosystem, and there's a lot of success stories there around. What is your take on Indian startup ecosystem and how they can be better?
Yeah, that's a very good question. My take on the Indian startup ecosystem is that there are some very serious initiatives that have been launched by the government in this regard, but there is so much more that needs to be done. I think the execution piece, I think, is sturdy. The amount that has been allocated to fund startups, in my opinion, needs to grow manyfold. I think the government of India has to take the initiative of not only making available these pools of funds to universities like yours or wherever it can be dispersed. The most important thing is that the money should first of all be plenty.
Right.
The amount of money that we are allocating here in India to startup scene or the startup ecosystem is grossly inadequate. Grossly inadequate is the only word I can use.
Right.
It has to go up by 100 times,
right,
if not 50 times or 25 times. I know that we are resource constrained, but startups are probably the answer to so many challenges that we are facing, not only in India, but even in the state of Punjab, for instance. If you look at the state of unemployment, if you look at the drug problem, if you look at issues that the agriculture is facing, there's so many issues that Punjab state is facing today, the country is facing. And the one singular answer could be the startup ecosystem, because startup ecosystem produces many jobs. It produces skill sets. It produces an environment which is very, very seductive, and it is capable of firing up and lightening up, the ecosystem, and the word spreads. This guy is doing the startup, I should do the startup, and this can explode.
Right.
You can find answers to the issues that we are facing in agriculture, in the business, in retail, in tech, in energy, and so on and so forth. Israel is a great example.
Exactly.
It's a country that basically is right now probably what we call number one in terms of the startup ecosystem. Yeah. We should just go and just replicate that.
Right.
China is so far ahead of us. I was in China just a few months ago before this coronavirus broke out. You have no idea how vibrant and how supportive the government is, in supporting the system. Here, I think at the government level, at the central level, at the state level, not only we need to work on the funding piece, but also on the skill piece. Right. I think people who understand venture capital are very few. They don't necessarily have the skill set to actually coach mentors or produce mentors and so on and so forth.
But it's happening. It started now.
Yeah,
I think it started now.
It is. Yeah. But the amount of mentors,
the magnitude
that we need, quality mentoring, it's all about. And startups is not just all about go-to-market strategy. Startup is also all about risk management.
Risk management.
How do you manage risk? I mean, we've now seen, in the last just 6 months or 1 year, how some of the biggest startups have actually crashed and burned.
Right.
Now, WeWork, for instance, right? A company valued at $47 billion. Now people are talking about a valuation of $5 billion. I mean, and so on and so forth. So risk management has to be an integral piece of the startup scene.
Absolutely.
You can't just go out and flagrantly go and spend money, because it's free money and it's coming from VCs and
so there has to be a process to it.
So forth. It has to be well
in
spent,
sync, well spent,
well thought through.
Well thought through.
These are
very.
It's very important to follow the rules of the game and
I think that's where the miss
and
is.
not be indiscriminate
Right.
about scaling up, and because scaling up has its challenges, it has its pluses and it has its minuses, but we are seeing some signs actually here in India as well with some of these unicorns. They are not really doing as well as they should be, and that's largely on account of the fact that they did not build an adequate management structure to support the growth.
Right.
And the growth came too early, but it was not supported by
So it had a decline.
a top line, middle management, lower levels, training,
So the layers could have been well
motivation, adequate research, this whole idea about devising a go-to-market strategy on the fly sometimes doesn't work very well.
Well, I think your answer, though long, has a real punch, and you're addressing it so rightly. And the viewers who are going to listen to this interview and your your answers and your thoughts are going to have some good takeaways. Another question is that from the startup point of view, the founder's point of view, what are 2-3 takeaways they should have from your tall experience?
Well, I'm no startup guru, so I'm sure there's plenty of people
We
who
feel
can,
you are. So.
Plenty of people who can probably talk
But
on this
just
subject
one or
probably
two
much
thoughts.
better than I can. But I think there are 2 or 3 or 4 things that I think for a founder to figure out is, first of all, is to reflect well on yourself and ask yourself a question: am I really cut out for this job? I think that's the first question. You need to have a certain mental makeup, a few personality attributes which make a successful founder or a startup guy. This is a 24/7 affair. This is not something they can do between 9 and 5. Startups are launched and made successful when you eat, sleep, breathe these startups. So it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
You have to have a certain type of personality, a certain type of personality attributes to actually make this thing go.
Right.
And what are those attributes? You must obviously be really, really crazy hungry, right? You have to be crazy hungry to accomplish the objective that you're set out to achieve. And if you are not going to make it. You should not be shy of failures, because the failures are going to come.
Brilliant.
You have to get up and start again. You'll get not one failure, you get 100 failures. So once you have taken account of all this on day one, am I really cut out for this job? Should I really be doing this? Then you go to the next phase in examining your proposal, the funding, the management team, the market, the timing, and that all comes later on. But this is the first question.
So the mental makeup is the key.
Very important.
Because it's personality driven.
Yes, and it's very important. And this is where some people miss it out. And that's why 93% of the startups fail. Why they fail? Because they really didn't ask all these questions. They thought, it's fashionable to go into a startup. I was with my colleague last night, and he said he met a guy last night, and he said, I'm starting a pizza shop. It's very successful in Mohali, and I'm going to do 100 of these. And my immediate response was, seems like a really bad idea. Like, just because he's got one successful pizza shop in Mohali, he wants to go and do 100 of these? I don't like that. so what I'm seeing is that the startup has become it's fashionable.
Right.
It sounds, sort of
very
wow,
fancy,
terminology. You can go and show off to your girlfriends or to your friends that I'm doing a startup. I mean, and it's also, it's very important that all these consumer type startups, they don't have longevity. They fail.
Right.
Because there are no barriers to entry. There's competition that creeps up on you. You haven't thought through that, listen, whatever I'm going to do, there's another guy who can do it probably better. He's going to probably outbeat me. He's going to sell the stuff cheaper than I can. So you have to basically come up with an idea which is sown and rooted in deep technology. That, I think, is very important in today's day and age, that you can't keep on delivering pizzas, and say, or do Zomato and food service, and these types of startups, have a fragility and a tendency to die.
Very tender fabric of their outline.
Early stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they are not founded
Yeah.
on technology or a strong competitive advantage or a patent or something or whatever. So, I mean, there's a lot.
No, I think these are very valid inputs. And who says that you're not a startup mentor? Your understanding about startup would be better than anybody. It's incomparable. So, thank you on that. Thank you very much. And I think this could go on and on, because now is the time of the interview where we are just opened up. But we have your time, running short also.
I'm glad I'm able to help.
It's an honor. And my one last question is, were you ever offered a role in Hollywood? You're a very handsome man.
Well, not as yet. But let us see.
And there is still time.
I suppose, you're right. There's still a few months or a few years left. I can take a crack at it.
Sometimes a minute means a lifetime.
Yeah.
That's what Al Pacino said in Scent of a Woman.
Yeah. I never explored that. Now that you've given me this idea, maybe I should.
My best wishes are with you on that, and look forward to interview you on that account.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much. It's an honor.
Thank you.
Look forward to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.